It was an absolutely smashing day today, so I thought I'd ride back to the fish markets via Bridge Road in Glebe, and I would try out an alternative route of going up St John Street, or is it St John Street? I don't know. Anyway, along the way, let's have a look at this article from the Sydney Morning Herald and digest exactly what it means. Now, on the surface, this looks like quite an alarming article. I mean, after all, the traffic experts came up with 26 safety issues, including dangers that were so serious that they were rated as intolerable. Well, what does this actually mean, and where does this intolerable rating come from? Well, let's have a look at how Austroads does risk assessments and how we end up with these ratings. Well, you do that by taking two tables. The first one looks at how often is the problem likely to lead to a crash, and as you can see, frequent, probable, occasional, improbable, and how often it's going to happen. The second table you want to look at is what is the likely severity of a resulting crash. And you can see you've got catastrophic, serious, minor, and limited. Now, the ones we want to pay attention to are the serious crashes and the minor, because if you look over in the examples, serious crash is where a pedestrian or cyclist is struck by a car, and a minor crash is a cyclist falls from a bicycle at low speed. Now, notice there are no limited cycling collisions. I mean, a pedestrian might walk into an object, such as a low-hanging sign, and bang their head. Yep, that's a limited crash, but the lowest scale cyclist crash is minor. So let's have a look at how these are then calculated. And here's what it looks like in the Austroads guide, but to make it a little bit easier, I took this out and put it into a spreadsheet and did a bit of color coding to make it a bit clearer as to where the intolerable crashes come from. So a catastrophic frequent crash is intolerable, a serious probable crash is intolerable, a minor frequent crash is intolerable, whereas the other types of crashes are, high, medium, and low, etc. But how does this relate to cycling? Well, let's move on to the next thing. Well, we can start by removing the catastrophic type crashes. I've grayed them out because that might involve, say, a tanker crash into a whole crowd of people or something like that, or a tunnel collapse. Unless you have a truck, say, run into the back of 50 cyclists, it's pretty unlikely you're going to have a catastrophic crash. So that's eliminated. Now, remember what we said a minute ago? You can't have a limited cyclist crash, so I've grayed all them out as well. Now, the first thing you might note when you look at this summary table of all the crash types is the severity of every single one of them is rated as serious. So we can go back to our table and we can grey out everything that isn't serious. So hopefully you can see that if crashes are seen as frequent or probable, everything is going to end up in the intolerable bucket. If you've got some occasional type crashes, then yeah, they'll show up as high, and if they're improbable, they'll show up as medium. But you can see there is absolutely no chance that a crash type could show up here as low, because it's just completely excluded by the way the crashes are rated. And how frequent did the auditors think these crashes would happen? Well, they're almost all going to be occasional or probable. So if we update our table, it's looking like this. So every single issue that the auditors came up with, of course, is going to show up as intolerable or high. So let's just do a simple comparison. Let's have a look at how many hazards I can count on my ride from the Bay Run to Bridge Road. Well, we've got a slippery section of gravel, that's 1. We've got a bad detour and a really bumpy track, so that's 2 and 3. Another section of slippery gravel, that's 4. Dooring hazards in a narrow, badly marked bike lane. We've got tree thingies taking up the bike lane, narrowing it to, well, definitely less than a metre, pushing cyclists out onto the road. We're coming up to a roundabout and cyclists are being squeezed from a bike lane into the traffic lane. And again, happening here with bonus islands. So that's another one. Oh look, dooring hazard. Yes, almost got wiped out by a white van man. And what the hell is that? Okay, well, I managed to ride across it because, I've got skills. And how wide is this cycle lane? Does it meet the 1.5 metre wide desirable limit? Nope, it's 140. How about this gap here? Is that 1.5 metres wide? No, it's about 85 centimetres. So, yep, you could easily clip your handlebars on them. Is that any wider? I doubt it. And what about that? That's just one massive slip hazard when it rains. So what are we up to now? I don't know, but we've got another narrow gap here between that truck and there, and what is it? That's probably an 80 to 90 centimetre gap when you take into account the wing mirror that's sticking out. So we've made it to Bridge Road, and I think we've counted 14 hazards. And how would we rate them? Well, they'd all fall into the probable or occasional, I guess. And because they're cycling type crashes. They all come in as serious. So they could all possibly come in as intolerable. So there you go. Like in 1 minute from a bike camera, I've come up with 14 intolerable risks. Does that mean that that route is unsafe and should be closed? No, not at all. And same goes for the Bridge Street cycleway. After riding to this point, I tried running up and down St John's Road to see what it's like as an alternative route, and that's the subject of the next video.